Trussell Trust, which runs more than 3/4 of food banks, reports a sharp increase in people asking for help. In the last financial year, it handed out 350,000 parcels containing a 3-day supply of food. This financial year, the Trust supplied 913,000 parcels.
And you put the pasta down as well. Is that it now for that box?
One week of it.
That's great. We began in the summer of 2011 and I started then, and it was exciting really. We got one client per session. We very often didn't get anybody. Now we can get up to, what would you say, about 16?
Yeah,
16
sure.
people in one session.
That's some families as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so if you actually
Yeah.
think of the number of people you're feeding, it's obviously going to be a lot more than 16. The most common reason that people come is usually that there's a problem with their benefits. Often they've been sanctioned, and they can be sanctioned for a number of reasons. If they don't make their interview appointment, even I believe by a couple of minutes, whatever the reason, they are automatically sanctioned. So we've had people coming in who, for example, there's been a bus strike and they've rung ahead to say that they won't be able to get in on the time they were expected, but they've still been sanctioned. We've had cases of people who've actually been in hospital. We had a lady a couple of years ago who had terminal cancer. She was not able to go to her interview because she was having an emergency operation at the time. Even though she took in the hospital appointment bracelet that she had still on, they wouldn't reverse the sanction, and she was actually sanctioned for about 6 weeks before they could get it sorted.
The most surprising to some people, at least, is that lots of people are in full-time work use food banks. There's a lot of in-work poverty because wages in this area are so low.
Sometimes people will use a food bank when they've spent their money on something that they probably shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
Substance misuse, maybe.
Yeah, so maybe on wants rather than needs. So not prioritising basic needs, as in staple foods, over other things. So food banks, I think different food banks operate differently, and that's. I understand that some food banks, it's almost like a supermarket where you can go do your shopping and help yourself. But then there are others like the one we use in Conway, which is very much a referral system. And what we try very hard to do is where somebody's in need, we will make the referral if they meet the criteria. But we then also offering, we're looking at the whole picture, so holistically, what's got them to this situation and how can we help them from not being in that situation again.
If you link benefits to incomes, benefits go up like everybody else's income. If you link them to prices, gradually the gap widens because essentially people aren't getting as much as they would have otherwise. And that's been going on for years and years and years.
And social services make referrals sometimes as well. Before food banks, social services used to have a cupboard of food, a bit like you see in the food banks. And we would have clients who we work with potentially would come in and ask for food, and we'd just give them a bag of food, very much like a food bank, except we would know them anyway. So we would just give them some food because it was always a better option than money for some families because they might not use the money wisely enough. And occasionally social workers would go out to people's homes, and that would happen now as well, and we sometimes have to check that they've got food in for the children. So if they haven't, we might on occasion refer to a food bank. But it's not a solution, you see. That's the issue, is it?
Not on its own.
It's a one-off crisis intervention. There seems to be an element of inflexibility about sanctions as well, and money can just be stopped with no thought as to how somebody might just, how they're going to manage until it's reinstated.
I can only imagine it getting worse. Food prices are, I mean, just as a shopper myself, food prices are just going up by the week. And we don't know what will happen with Brexit, but it's quite possible that there'll be more unemployment problems. And even if they're not, a lot of the people who come in, it's not because they're unemployed, it's because the salaries that they are on are so low. The minimum wage is simply, clearly not enough for people, especially if they're trying to support families.
There's a lot of political change at present, and we're facing one of the biggest shocks to the economy for 40 odd years as we leave the European Union, and that's bound to have a depressing effect. So I'm afraid that it's going to be worse, that prices will be going up a little bit, there'll be a squeeze on incomes, and jobs won't be so easy to come by.
It's degrading. It's especially when you work all your life and you've got to, when people have got to come and tell you that they can't sort you out a parcel,